Hello, and welcome to Movie Review with Mz.ChiGurl. And I'm your host, Mz.ChiGurl. Hey, everybody, it's been a while. I am sorry so much for the inconsistency, but my life. Basically, I don't know if you guys read my message board because I do. I tried it twice, actually. Twice. The first time, I think I saw one person used it, and then the second time, I didn't see anybody use it. So, just so you know, if you search out of curiosity with Mz.ChiGurl, you will see like a tab, and there should be something for like posts. Well, I'm trying to use the post to notify you guys when I'm not going to be able to have content because my life. Anyway, so between that, so basically what I'm trying to tell you is that I had a death in the family, and then I also had the last day of work. I told you guys a while ago. Basically, I told you I think the week that I found out that I was let go, that I was laid off from my job. And so between planning a funeral, taking care of my elderly mother, and dealing with the grief I didn't think I was going to have for a job that I worked for a lot of years and wasn't necessarily happy with. Um, I life was just lifing. And even today, I'm not going to say I'm 100%, but I've been getting back to the old me, if you will. I think the thing that's driving me now is that at the end of the month, I'm going on vacation. I'm going to Punta Cana. And I actually purchased the trip the day after they told me that I was laid off. And so I'm looking forward to this trip. The hotel has already reached out to me and was like, you're going to be here in a couple of weeks. Do you need transportation? Do you need this? Do you need that? And you start making reservations. And so, that's kind of been perking me up. But I wanted to get this review out to you because I want to talk about other stuff too. And I wanted to get a few videos out while I can before I go on vacation and things to that effect. I'm sorry about the Clink Fest video. I never got that to you. I still have the material and haven't edited a thing. So I'm going to be reviewing Happy Death Day, Happy Death Day 2, and Until Dawn. And so I'm going to review those movies for you and give you something to think about watching over this weekend or whenever you have downtime. So let's start with Until Dawn. This movie, I want to say, I don't remember if it came out this year or last year, but it was in April of either last year or this year. So it's a fairly recent movie. It's on Netflix, so you can watch it if you have a subscription. Basically, the gist of the let me tell you, spoiler alert, and everything is alleged. And in my opinion, that's it. So those three things. One, spoiler alerts. I don't know when I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna try not to give you too much, so because I've been told at one point I was giving too much, and you didn't even want to watch the movie because I gave you so much. Two, things are allegedly. If I say something, I don't know, that's not in the scope of the movie, but is actually about a real person, it's all alleged. And lastly, everything is in my opinion. You don't have to like my opinion. You don't have to like the movies that I like. And honestly, I think there are going to be a lot of people who have different views about movies than I do. But I'm trying to just highlight some things that you could potentially be interested in. So let's get started. The first one I'm going to start with is Until Dawn. This movie actually turned out to be a surprise. I actually liked the trailer of the movie, and I was just watching it just because I like watching horror movies, thrillers, suspense, and so forth. And so I thought that, hey, I'll check this movie out. I don't have nothing else to do. So I watched it, and the first thing that came to mind is, oh my God, this would be a perfect segue into Happy Death Day 2, because the theme of these movies is deja vu. Or you could say Groundhog Day. And actually, I might change it. I'm going to say this is Groundhog Day, because basically what happens And Until Dawn, this girl is in search of her sister who's gone missing. Hits the road with some of her friends. They look like they're college age, so they're kind of teens, late teens, early 20s. And basically, what happens is they all. I'm gonna give you this spoiler alert because it doesn't define the movie, but they all die searching for the girl's sister. But the great news is that the day resets itself at dawn. So at dawn, they get to redo the day all over again. And they don't necessarily have to do it the same way. So the point is to stay alive. So you guys have to watch to see who lives, who dies, who makes it. Does anybody make it? I'm not telling you. But that's what Until Dawn is. On a rating of scale 1 to 10, I actually gave it a 7. I really enjoyed the movie, and like I said, it was a surprise that I thought that it was kind of smart the way they handled the whole reliving the day over and over again. So that brings me to Happy Death Day. Now this one, I don't know if you guys saw the trailer, but it was funny. When they did the trailer for this movie, this woman has a ringtone, and in the trailer, her ringtone is what's that song by 50 Cent? In the Club. So her ringtone is In the Club, and it's the part of the song that says, Yo, shorty, it's your birthday. You don't party like it's your birthday. And I think that's what really drew my attention to the movie back when it came out in theaters. I want to say it came out in 2017. Anyway, when you're actually watching the movie, maybe they couldn't pay the royalties to 50 Cent to use that song in this movie. And so they play a different song that reminds me of this is for, again, the older crowd. If there's, I hope my vision is that everybody is older watching this, so you should know my references. But anyway, early thousands, early 10s, I want to say there was this ringtone of this stupid frog that be like, well, whatever. I don't know if you're gonna get that reference or not. Anyway, the girl's phone rings and it says, "Hey, it's your birthday!" So, and it's like in that froggy voice that's from that ringtone that was earlier decades ago. Anyway, I think it's cute. Um, the funny thing about the first one is that I figured out who the killer was in that movie. So in that movie, the person whose birthday it is, she gets murdered, just like the movie I just told you about. And so she has to relive that day, I guess, until she figures out who kills her or who tried to kill her or who wanted her dead. And so in one, I was able to figure it out. And my son was like, "How did you get?" I don't know. It's a gift. Like I told him, I said, in the job I work in, and over the years, my jobs have required me to be detail oriented. Not that actually my detail orientation has slipped since I've gotten older. But back in the day, I was the person who notices little differences. And so sometimes that still kicks in. I notice little differences that don't necessarily, they make me say, basically is what happens. And so then when you get further along in the plot, that clicks in this light bulb over my head. And then I say, that's it. That's the killer. That's this. That's that. So anyway, that's what happened with this movie. And so I was able to figure out who the killer was. And I enjoyed it because it was a slasher film with a little bit of horror. And so it's what you consider a dark comedy. So if you're into slasher films, if you're into whodunits, if you want a little comedy, this is the movie for you. Now, they had a sequel that came out in, I want to say, 2019. It was not as good as the first one, but I still enjoyed it because usually with movies, you don't get to see what happened after everything was, solved and all that stuff. So it actually picks up with the very next day. And so you got to see what happened after she lived through that whole deja vu Groundhog Day type of thing. And I didn't get a chance to figure out who the murderer was, y'all. I was mad at myself. No. I think they made an effort. Maybe they realized that the first time it was too easy to figure out who the killer was. And so this time they tried to make it a little more complex. And so um these two movies you can either rent on Prime or it will be on Peacock if you have the subscription. And so that's how I was able to watch it. I hope you enjoy my recommendations as much as I did. Oh, speaking of which, what did I give Happy Death Day 2? Did I even tell you what I gave Happy Death Day 1? I mean, Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day, I gave a 7 out of 10. And Happy Death Day 2, I'm giving a 6 out of 10. So if you're into, again, like I said, it's going to be, so the first one isn't a comedy. It's just straight slasher horror thriller whodunit. And then Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2 are all that plus dark comedy. So if those are your type of movies and you're looking for movies with a theme, those are the three I would recommend. Okay, so while we're going over whodunits and slasher films and things to that effect, I've also seen a couple of movies that I think still fit into that genre. These two are not deja vu Groundhog related, but they are murder suspense. So if you're looking for a couple of good murder suspense, the reason why these two came to my head is because I feel like this movie is called The Woman in Cabin 10. It came out on Netflix this weekend, and it may be in the number one spot of movies on Netflix. And it reminded me of this other movie I saw on Hulu called Death and Other Details. That was actually a 10 episode series. I want to say it was a limited series. If it wasn't limited, I believe that show was actually canceled. But the whole thing is basically about taking a trip on a yacht, boat, whatever, and a murder occurs. And so, if you're into a murder mystery, then either one could pique your interest. I want to say that Death and Other Details was actually more interesting than The Woman in Cabin 10. Death and Other Details that you can find on Hulu. And actually, is it still Hulu? Because Hulu is now Disney Plus as of last week. Just a little tidbit in case you didn't know. Death and Other Details, I gave a 6, which is on Hulu. And The Woman in Cabin 10, I gave a 5. So if you want to watch something that's, like I said, currently trending on Netflix, or you want to see the version that's similar to it that's on Hulu, those are two that you could check out. Last thing I want to talk to you about is the documentary that just came out on Netflix, and it's called The Perfect Neighbor. Oh my God. This one, I'm not going to give you too much detail, but I'm going to tell you that it was on the news. Let's see. Dang, this is 2025. So it was 3 years ago. No, it was 2 years ago. It was on the news 2 years ago. And when I got 10, 15 minutes into it, I remembered. I said, I know this story. This was on the news. But actually seeing the police footage, because that's how this documentary is shot. I don't know if you guys are into this as well. So it's a version of Cops. So just imagine watching Cops, except now you can watch police body cam videos on YouTube. And in this particular instance, it's a documentary. I got into that this summer since, I was on medical leave and all that stuff. I don't know how I ran into it. I know what it was. I initially saw it on TikTok. TikTok isn't that long. And I was like, I want to know what happened. And so I actually Googled it Google told me that the whole video was on YouTube. And from there, that's how I started watching police cam videos. And then recently, like in the past 30 days, I've been watching court videos. And these were actually court cases that took place during the pandemic. And so at first I had my family into it, my family being my mother and my son. And then eventually they got bored. But me, I'm all into it. I feel like I'm definitely learning some stuff I didn't know as far as what your rights are, what you can be charged with if you get pulled over by the police, if you don't cooperate with them, and so on and so forth. Things that I never knew before that they could get me for. Long story short, watching the actual body cam footage from the police officers who dealt with this case, because it took place a year and a half of an instant of a situation occurring between neighbors and between a neighborhood, and the end results were completely uncalled for, unnecessary. I cried. I'm just gonna let you know, even though I knew what was gonna happen, it was still jarring to see the footage of some of the stuff that you don't see on the news. And so I think you really should check this documentary out. Again, it's called The Perfect Neighbor. I believe it's trending number one for movies on Netflix, but it's a documentary. It's only the runtime is only like 90 minutes or 98 minutes. Take the time to check it out. And I want to hear your comment and your feedback about what you think about the situation that happened with that documentary. Again, thank you for checking in with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't forget to comment. Doggone it. I'm coming back. See, I just need to get in front of y'all and I was going to come back. But yeah, so please comment. Let me know what you guys think about my suggestions. Let me know about what you think I should check out next time. But I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be a thing with this being October. Like, I actually wanted to do this for October 1st. And you'll see it took me a while to get it. But I'm probably going to be doing all types of maybe horror movies or something like that. But the whole thing with The Perfect Neighbor, that wasn't a horror movie. It was a horror situation is what it was. It's a terrible look into what's happening around the country, and it's completely unnecessary. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. I hope you enjoy my recommendations, and I'll try and get a video out to you soon. I don't know if it's going to be a random thoughts. I don't know if it's going to be a weekend, because I have stuff for the weekends that I want to tell you guys about. And like I said, life has just been lifing. And so I don't want to. The whole point, the reason why I created this channel is because I was like, with the current administration, they were bringing people down. I felt, especially in the beginning. And God damn it, it hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse, if anything. And I didn't want people to have that negative feeling, especially when watching TV. Like, I stop watching stuff nowadays if they get too deep or if it gets too serious. Like, I don't even watch the news. The way I get my news, honestly, is through social media. And that's because I could swipe. And so if it's something I don't want to see, swipe, swipe, swipe. If it's something I want to see, take the time to read it or watch the video. So I don't want to be that down in negative experience for you in the times that we're living in. But I hope that I can bring a positive light into your life, and I'm going to try and do that more. Like, even with my random thoughts, maybe I think I did this in one of them, or was it in my weekend review where I showed you a funny video? I found another funny video for you guys. And so I might just put those in, sprinkle them in my content so that it's not necessarily so heavy. So thank you again for joining me, and good night.